especially if you're a rebuilding Dynasty team, you have to look to the future and see which assets you should build your team around, including assets that are going to be drafted here this spring in the 2024 class. And yes, it's very early to include 2024 guys in a video like this, but we're going to do it for fun because that's why we do this channel, is for fun. So don't hold us to this in 5 months. Obviously, this is going to change, but we thought it would be interesting to put these very highly talented rookies into these 2024 Cornerstone rankings. And also some of the guys, CeeDee Lamb, Devonta Smith, JT, will be 25 this season. So we took them out. So they graduated out of Cornerstone territory.
Don't tell us that we forgot them. We looked into this. I promise you. We did not forget.
So now the 2024 Cornerstone rankings on the best looking tier graphic in Dynasty YouTube. Starting at the top here, the S tier, we're going to say Justin Jefferson.
For the last time.
And Jamar Chase. And that's it, right?
No. We're calling our shot here. Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3, we think is going to be a top 3 draft pick in the 2024 NFL draft. He is elite. And honestly, when you're looking at those teams that are drafting at the top, are they going to be getting a quarterback and or a wide receiver? I think you're going to have a really nice duo right out the bat where Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be able to produce and prove that he is as elite as we expect him to be. I mean, he is literally everything Jackson Smith and Jigba was as a prospect, but like 5 times better.
He is the best wide receiver prospect we've seen since who? I don't even know. I don't remember the last one.
I mean, Jamar Chase was a ridiculous
I think he's a better prospect than Chase was.
I agree.
So, like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will say, yeah, this isn't a hot take. And some people will be like, wow, that's bold. He's not even played in the NFL yet.
Yeah.
It's going to go both ways. Again, we're doing this for fun. And if he does get the draft capital that he's projected to, he absolutely will be in this tier. He absolutely will be a first-round Dynasty startup pick. And he should be.
Yeah, and especially the reason, like, wide receivers are on the rise, and they'll continue to be on the rise in Dynasty fantasy
value
football.
Will be so insulated.
Value, super insulated. And you're looking at Bijan Robinson, a running back who no one had seen play, and everyone was like, oh, he's guaranteed for sure going to be elite level. He ends up being drafted 8th overall, and there you go, boom. Automatically in goes at the tail end of the first round consistently in Dynasty Superflex leagues. I think you're going to see the same thing happen to Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to go at the 1-2 turn once he's drafted at least top 10.
So that's the S tier. And I'll start the A tier here, and we can kind of alternate players, but I'm going to start with Bijan. And a lot of people are going to say this is way too reactionary. Look, Bijan, we know exactly what he is. He's the best running back in the NFL.
Yep. He is.
But if we're being honest with ourselves, in Dynasty Superflex leagues, I'm not as comfortable taking Bijan as I am Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, or in that case, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Correct.
So that's why he's in this tier. It's not Bijan, still the most talented running back, the best running back. Unfortunately, the reason he has dropped down one tier and one spot in this ranking is because the fantasy production hasn't really lined up with the talent yet. And that's going to make him a buy in a lot of places. Again, putting him here, he's still deserving to go at the 1-2 turn. He still is.
Yep.
This isn't really like a big knock on Bijan. It's just we're not as comfortable taking him as we are the receivers. That's why he moved down. Bijan's still fine. Don't sell Bijan. He's still one of the best. He's the best cornerstone running back to build your team around.
Yeah, and Breece Hall is another one of those running backs that will stay. He'll go back up to the 1-2 turn. He was a guy that was consistently falling. A lot of people had questions about his ACL. He started the season slow because they eased him in. Workload-wise, even though he was fully cleared, it was kind of, we were worried about it. Well, then he comes in week 5 against Denver, 28 points, 20 points, 21 points against the Giants, and that's with 50 to 65% snap share. Like, he's not even at a ceiling yet, man.
I know. He's amazing.
Is wildly efficient. Yeah, there's a couple games where he's not efficient. It's because he's like the only weapon that they can utilize on a consistent basis because Zach Wilson can't throw the ball. Yes, are we worried long-term about the quarterback situation for the Jets? Yeah, we are. The one thing we do know is that Breece Hall is absolutely elite. His receiving upside is incredible. 5 targets and 9 targets over the last couple of games this season. I think that's only going to get better and better as he gets re-implemented into this offense after going down early with that ACL injury last year. He has come back dang near stronger than he was before the injury. He looks amazing. Great, not worried about it at all. Definitely deserving to be back-to-back with Bijan Robinson, especially when Arthur Smith hates your fantasy team.
We're going to give a good bump here to Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're going to bump him up a tier and a spot because Amon-Ra, 20 points per game so far this year. That's 9th in the league. That's very, very good. 7th in targets, 5th in target rate. 8th in target share, 11th in yards after catch, 8th in receiving yards, 5th in receptions. Not to mention, he's got a little bit of help from Jared Goff, 4th in target accuracy. So, even the efficiency is very, very good here.
You know what's funny is he's pretty much everything that people expected Michael Pittman Jr. to be a couple years ago.
That's true.
Like he's all of that. And
he's also first in route wins, which Michael Pittman is also very good in that stat.
Yeah.
Second in route win rate. First in win rate versus man. He is just 6th in contested catch rate, 12th in juke rate, 12th in touchdowns. I could go on and on. I'm going to also look, and this is less of like, yeah, he's not a top 5 scoring wide receiver technically this year, but I think when it's all said and done, he will be. I think some of the outliers will kind of filter out. He's just looked really good and really consistent, and his quarterback play has been very good.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson is going to head up the B tier here. He's dropped down a few spots. We were very aggressive with ranking Garrett Wilson earlier this season, and that was obviously with the assumption that Aaron Rodgers was going to play the entire year and really help Garrett Wilson become this elite top 3 wide receiver, top 3 caliber level wide receiver from a fantasy perspective, and that just didn't hold true, obviously, because the turf killed Aaron Rodgers, I guess, just like the turf killed Kirk Cousins, even though it was real grass. But with Garrett Wilson, man, we're still a believer in him long term. When everyone was out on Garrett Wilson after the Rodgers injury, which I think is funny because we're talking about Dynasty Fantasy Football, and Rodgers wasn't even a long-term answer for Garrett Wilson's situation in New York, but here we are. You get Garrett Wilson at a discount. He's still producing with Zach Wilson. He's getting 10-plus targets, like a floor of 7 targets in a game, and he's scoring like 17 points as his ceiling, but it's been pretty consistent, anywhere from 12 to 17 points.
He's been good.
And he's been straight up good, man, with one of the worst situations in the NFL.
Maybe the worst. It's
maybe
awful.
The worst. He has proven time and time again that he is such an amazing wide receiver from a talent perspective. And even in fantasy football, even in Dynasty Fantasy Football, he can still have a lot of value because he is producing for you. He is scoring points. He has not completely screwed you. If you invested in him, even as a contender, he is a key piece on your roster still to contending, even though it's not at the level that you expected. I would expect, again, the reason he's dropped three spots is we are worried about him with this quarterback situation.
Yes.
Will he end up being a career DJ Moore, a career Terry McLaurin, a career maybe even Drake London, dare I say. But regardless of that, he's outproduced those guys in worse situations.
We're going to get bold again. We are not worried about the Brock Bowers injury. We are going to say that he's going to maintain being the best tight end prospect since Kyle Pitts. But honestly, I think he's going to be better than Kyle Pitts. And I don't think that's bold knowing what Kyle Pitts has done now. But when you're looking at his college production in 7 games this year, he had 41 receptions on 53 targets. The 7 games, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
7. 566 receiving yards, a 20% target share. 77% catch rate. He had 4 touchdowns. Guys.
He's good.
He is so good. He's probably going to get top 15 draft capital. And in a dynasty setting right now where tight ends are pretty scarce.
It's wide open, man.
It's wide open.
Wide
Brock
open.
Bowers is going to come in here and he's going to be dominant.
Yep.
We have him 2 tiers above Laporta and Kincaid both.
Yep.
That should tell you what we think about Brock Bowers. Him and Garrett Wilson are going to be alone in this tier, but we are very high on Brock Bowers as a prospect.
Yeah, and we're going to drop down a tier here to the C tier, starting with Chris Olave. And the reason this is kind of a either these guys have long-term question marks, are wide receiver 2s behind some better wide receivers, or have just straight up disappointed, but they've increased because they still have showed out from a volume perspective. Chris Olave is one of those guys. He has a ceiling of 15 targets in a game, and he's still not putting up a lot of points right now. Are fantasy points in the valuation of dynasty assets everything in the offseason? No, they're not everything. So that's why we're still going to pump the brakes on Chris Olave, see if the situation gets better, see if Derek Carr gets a little bit better in helping Olave produce. But yeah, we do have some concerns with Chris Olave. That being said, we are going to move him up 4 spots to where we previously had him. And a lot of that is just going to be because we lost so many guys due to their age. They're going to be 25 this next offseason.
CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle,
Jonathan Taylor,
Devonta Smith.
Smith.
He jumped. and he's jumped guys like Gibbs and JSN.
Yeah. So that's really going to be the reason why we have Olave at the top of this list here in the C tier. We're still confident in him as a talent, but we do have questions, man. We do have a lot of questions with the volume there and honestly where he's getting the ball. Kamara's taken a lot away from him this season, and Kamara won't be there forever.
That's true. Drake London's going to be next, and Drake London also somebody that is stuck in a terrible, and when I say terrible, I mean really, really bad.
Like bad.
His situation's been awful, but he has actually managed to produce through it when you're looking at his production a little bit. And you're looking at the targets in particular, especially early in the season, I was fairly concerned. Let's say 7 targets, 12 targets, 9 targets, 7 targets, 8 targets, 6 targets. After that first game where he got 1 target, he had 6 or more targets every single game.
I know, because Ritter's been throwing the ball more than we expected. So he's actually had some nice volume.
He's been scoring in double figures. He's still a wide receiver 3 right now. So you want to see more, but he's in one of the worst situations in the league, and that's why he's here in the C tier. Because honestly, you're talking about a wide receiver with top 10 draft capital, very, very talented wide receiver. He could easily be higher than this, but we're going to be conservative based on the production we've seen.
Yep.
We're going to put Drake London right here.
Yeah, this year he has a 22% target share, which is what you're looking for a Dynasty Cornerstone wide receiver asset. The next guy we're going to have after Drake London will be Kenneth Walker. He's moving up 9 spots. We had so many questions about Kenneth Walker going into this season. We even went as far as predicting that Zach Charbonnet would eventually, potentially, outproduce him or at least make it a 50-50 split. It has not been that thus far, and Kenneth Walker has been vulturing all of the goal line opportunities, kind of like a Montgomery Gibbs situation where Charbonnet kind of brings that extra juice, that extra fresh legs into the offense, and he really makes the most out of his limited opportunities. But Walker, to date, is the guy. And even though we are long-term worried about Zach Charbonnet potentially taking away from Kenneth Walker, I don't think ultimately you can deny what Walker has done with Charbonnet in that offense. You got to give him his respect, man, while he's producing. I think it's going to probably continue, and at the very least, even if he's not as efficient as Charbonnet long-term, even if he gets less carries, as long as he's getting the red zone opportunities and the goal line carries, he's staying here in the C tier, man.
And he's the running back 7 so far this year.
Yeah.
I don't think you can put him, you could even put him higher than this.
Yeah.
Jordan Addison's going to be next. There are going to be people who say, yeah, you should have Jordan Addison higher. We're going to be conservative here with Jordan Addison. I do want people to remember, Jordan Addison normally is going to be the wide receiver 2 on his team. Jordan Addison's not a 1. He's not a 1. That's not the type of receiver he is. He's not an alpha receiver. I think what we've seen from him, yeah, he's been hot. He did just lose his quarterback. He was playing without Justin Jefferson. And honestly, I don't expect him to produce like he has the last couple of weeks for the rest of his career. So we're going to need to be conservative there.
Yep.
That said, he moves up 10 spots because he's looked fantastic. Immediate impact guy like we predicted. So Jordan Addison, very comfortable, and we are taking him over this next guy, which may be a hot take, but...
Yeah, Puka Nacua, man, he's as high as I think wide receiver 9 right now in keep trade cut. We're pumping the brakes a little bit on those rankings. I'd still value him as a high-end wide receiver 2 because of his historic production. And by historic, I mean like unbelievably historic, where the targets and the receptions and the yardage that he's gotten through the first 8 weeks of a rookie season is well beyond the best of the best historically. That being said, there are a lot of long-term questions with Puka Nacua and his situation for the LA Rams. And I mean, you got an aging quarterback who is pretty banged up and may retire. I mean, at any moment, honestly. Matt Stafford has won his Super Bowl. Even though he may say he has a lot to play, he doesn't have as much to play for as he used to because he got a Super Bowl, man.
Yep.
And the Rams, I think, are just delaying their inevitable hard rebuild one more season to see if they can make another playoff run. And that could negatively impact Puka's fantasy production for a couple years once that happens. So we're going to be conservative with him here, not super aggressive, but we are very optimistic about him. We're not ultimately... We weren't selling him for a first like a lot of people were because we knew that he'd probably go up in value because of how insanely he was producing. But if you can get like Waddle for him or whatever, we'd do that right now.
All right, let's jump down to the D tier here. We're going to have Jackson Smith-Njigba here. He's dropped 2 spots, so not a huge drop for him, even though he's been less productive than we thought he would to start his NFL career. Yeah. That does tell you, though, that we are still plenty high on JSN. We still like him as a talent. This is Dynasty. We're going to keep him here. We think his situation will improve once Tyler Lockett is gone. He's now getting more percentage of snaps. He's now getting more production. He's now had a couple touchdowns. JSN will continue to go up, but we'll move him down just a little bit. He's still going to be one of the best cornerstone assets in Dynasty.
Zay Flowers skyrocketed up our rankings, skyrocketed up Dynasty rankings as a whole. He's absolutely earned it. We can talk about his ceiling and maybe his cap ceiling once the offseason comes, once we do a ton of statistical analysis, but we need a larger sample size. We need an entire rookie season for Zay Flowers. I think at the end of the day, you ultimately have to give him his respect for producing at a high level as a rookie wide receiver in an offense where not many people expected Lamar Jackson to throw the ball as much as he is right now. Lamar Jackson is a very good passer. I would go as far as saying an elite passer. We've been saying that for multiple years, and he's finally showing out because freaking Greg Roman is gone. Zay Flowers is reaping the benefits of that. We love him as a talent. We did in the pre-draft process. We did once he went to Baltimore, and we bought him low. Now he's being valued accordingly.
We're going to put the 2 tight ends here. We're going to put Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid. And you could say, yeah, Domain guys. Laporta's been a lot more effective. True. Kincaid still has better draft capital, and now that Dawson Knox is gone, you're starting to see him step up and produce, and he's going to be playing with a better quarterback in a most likely better situation for the next couple of years. So right now on Keep Trade Cut, Sam Laporta has been bouncing back and forth between tight end 1, tight end 2. Dalton Kincaid is at tight end 5. We're going to close the gap between them. We think they should probably be back-to-back ranked, and we're going to rank them right here back-to-back in this tier. They're great tight ends. This is a tight end premium league, so we are ranking for tight end premium, and these guys are pretty much back-to-back for us. We would take, either or. They're both going to be top 5 round Dynasty startup picks come the offseason, so we're comfortable with that.
Yeah, Emeka Egbuka has been in the shadow of Marvin Harrison Jr., and he will be throughout this entire pre-draft process in 2024, and I think that's a really great opportunity for everyone to kind of capitalize on him flying under the radar because ultimately, our prospects analysis guy, Ryan Bread, basically compares him to Michael Pittman, but a glorified version. He's essentially a glorified Michael Pittman or very similar from a skill set perspective to like an Amon-Ra St. Brown. And that means safe. That means a lot of targets. That means a lot of opportunity. And he can really thrive in an effective offense that passes the ball a lot. So we're excited to see where Egbuka lands, but ultimately we're optimistic about the production that he's going to offer from a fantasy perspective and as a talent long-term for you in Dynasty.
Let's drop down to the F tier here, and we're going to start with Jahmyr Gibbs, who has been the biggest faller in our rankings at 10 spot drop.
Poor guy.
And why is this? I mean, I think if you are on the channel, why we think this.
It's not against him. We love him.
It's not him. But they signed David Montgomery to that contract, and David Montgomery's going to get all the red zone work. When David Montgomery's healthy, he's gotten all the red zone work. They like David Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs is the change of pace back. Jahmyr Gibbs has the talent to be in the A tier, honestly. And right now, I just don't trust the situation. I don't trust the coaching staff. I love Jahmyr Gibbs as a talent. I don't think he's a bust. I think he's going to be fine. But I would take every single person above him over Jahmyr Gibbs. And so he's our biggest faller. But still, a great player, great talent. It'll be interesting to see. If David Montgomery, for some reason, can consistently not stay healthy, then maybe you move Gibbs up a little bit. So
Malik Neighbors, another rookie from 2024 that we're going to have here, a wide receiver from LSU. I'm just going to read you his production through 8 games this season, his junior year, and I'll let you take that and go away with it and decide for yourself. 74 targets, 56 receptions, 981 yards, a 30% target share, and a 76% catch rate for 9 touchdowns.
Is that good?
Yes. Next guy.
Devon Achane. And people are going to say, yeah, you have Achane way too low. I think, you could look back in a year from now, maybe we do have Achane too low. But that being said, we're not going to jump the gun on Devon Achane like everybody else. Literally everybody else is saying, oh, Devon Achane, he's a top, 4 back on Keep Trade Cut, he got as high as RB4.
This is a let the dust settle rank.
It is we're not saying it's not possible. His more than likely range of outcome in the NFL, if he's going to stay healthy, which that is yet to be seen, by the way, is probably a high-end running back 2 as his ceiling. He is not really running back 1 material from a size standpoint. From a talent standpoint, I think you could make the argument. From a speed standpoint, I think you could make the argument. Yeah. Again, there are a lot of still red flags with Devon Achane. We've seen that play out. He's already been on IR in his first season. This is a wait and see. Let the dust settle. You could honestly put him as high as you want, as low as you want. I probably wouldn't argue it too much. I even debated putting him up a couple tiers here. We'll see with Devon Achane, but obviously a very talented guy who's flashed a ton in his rookie season. We are definitely lower on him than consensus, so take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, we did not forget about Kyle Pitts, obviously still very, very young. He'll be heading into his 4th season already in the NFL in 2024. He did drop 4 spots here because he's been outproduced by Jonnu Smith this season. It has looked horrible in Atlanta. Arthur Smith truly is trying to screw everyone in Dynasty and fantasy football. But with Kyle Pitts, we still believe in the talent. Ultimately, is it elite tight end 1 level? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It could be, but he's got to land in the right situation after this rookie deal is up. And who knows, maybe he still re-signs with Atlanta. Everyone at this point is just hoping and assuming that he's going to go to a better situation, a better team. They invested like the 4th overall pick in him. Atlanta did. They could pay him, and he could be stuck there for another 3 or 4 years after his rookie deal is up. There's too many question marks long-term for us to rank him higher than these other tight ends that we have above him that are on the rise. They're all out-producing him right now.
Yeah. Let's go down to the G tier here. Javonte Williams is going to be first. Javonte, I think he's back on the up and up. He's dropped 2 spots since our last rankings. I think he could easily jump 4 or 5 spots at the end of our season rankings.
Yeah, I would even say that he's absolutely on the rise. He could have, even though he dropped down 2 spots, it's because of the movement of all these rookies that we're bringing in and the new guys that just completely blew expectations out of the water in Puka, Laporta, Kincaid, and H.
He's still very young, so let's wait and see, but we're high on him, and we think he's going to go up soon.
Yeah, we're also very, very high on Josh Downs, not just because we're Colts fans, but because the volume and the production he's been getting is absolutely legit. Halfway through the season, through 8 games, he is already inching close to 500 receiving yards and is on track, obviously, for over 1,000 yards and about 110 targets on the season. That is very nice wide receiver 2 caliber production. And when you see wide receivers long-term in Dynasty Fantasy Football with that production as rookies, what they do for the rest of their career, it's scary. And Downs' ceiling is much higher than this. Not to mention that Michael Pittman may not get re-signed. He may not. I would hope he does.
I think he will.
I think he will. But if they don't re-sign him, they're going to go draft another guy.
That would be really interesting. Quentin Johnston's going to be next. Quentin Johnston has only dropped 3 spots in our rankings. Again, it's just because other guys moved up. We're not really saying yes or no to Quentin Johnston like other people are. We don't think he's washed. We don't think he's dead. We don't think he's a bust. You can't say he's a bust. You can't say it. So we'll keep him here. We'll consistently stay. Keep your head above the waves with Quentin Johnston and let him develop a little bit.
Yeah, and we're also going to be conservative and keep our head above the waves with George Pickens and Rashee Rice. The last couple of guys here, they've had some real nice weeks of production. Obviously, Pickens kind of goes back to what Pickens does best once Deontay Johnson is back healthy. We're going to be conservative with his ranking, but he's done nothing to hurt his value at all in Dynasty. He's just increased in value because of what he's done. He's a very good contested catch guy who has big playability after the catch. As a route runner and from a target separation perspective, he's like so not good. He really is a true wide receiver too, but we'll still give him the credit he deserves to be in the G tier here. And then Rashee Rice, we know what he is. He's a very mid wide receiver playing with Patrick Mahomes, who makes him look better than he is. But honestly, he's looked better in his own right than we ever expected.
Yeah.
So got to give him his respect as well. He does have room to rise here in future videos.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football and or you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe and like this video. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers on this channel. So we can't do it without your help. So we appreciate it if you subscribe. Head over to flockfantasy.com if you want one of these Dynasty Team blueprints. This blueprint will give you a good idea of your current build to your Dynasty team. We'll give you a multi-year outlook. It will grade your position groups. It's going to give you a depth score. It's going to give you players to move and to trade for. Tons and tons of fantasy advice and Dynasty advice for your Dynasty teams in this blueprint. So flockfantasy.com/domain. When you do the Mother Flocker tier, you get one of these blueprints. So like I said, flockfantasy.com/domain. Choose the Mother Flocker tier to unlock the blueprint. Appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.